All right, so we're 3 episodes into Alien Earth, and I'm absolutely loving it, guys. First episode definitely starts off really slow. Didn't really know what the hell was going on. I was super confused. But when you start getting a grasp on it, it is pretty interesting. Definitely not only a new take on the franchise, but a new exploration of something that I don't think has ever been done in a sci-fi movie, TV show, anything before. I guess spoiler alerts while I go over this stuff. Because I'm probably going to cover some things in detail. If you want to watch the show for yourself, you don't want me ruining anything for you, stop the video, scroll on, whatever the case is, I'm not offended. But just the concept alone of putting like the consciousness of kids in these machine bodies, synthetic bodies, alone is like such a cool concept that it probably could have been its own show. Like when I was watching that, I was like, adding aliens to this is like an unnecessary thing. That itself could have been its own thing, its own idea. There was plenty of material just on that alone. There is some stuff, again, these are very, very minor issues, complaints, grievances, but Disney really puts it in your face that Disney owns this franchise now. And up until now, Disney has done a pretty good job of trying to keep its cartoons or whatever the hell childlike stuff away from some of this newer IP, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's Marvel, and especially when we're talking about Alien, hands down the most mature, adult, gory content that they have purchased. But in the beginning of the show, as the kid's consciousness is going into the other symbiotic bodies, you see Peter Pan playing, the Disney movie Peter Pan. And I get it because it's a metaphor for the kids staying kids forever. They will never get to grow up. They are giving up their humanity to basically become immortal. So I understand the concept and everything. I understand the relation between Peter Pan and them. But it did feel a little on the nose for me. Now, Peter Pan is a classic story at this point. That movie is a classic movie. I don't know how long ago the cartoon was actually created, but decades ago, right? But then they show the movie Ice Age in a couple scenes. And apparently, the main character and her brother, grew up watching Ice Age, right? Cool, whatever. But that really did take me out of the movie because it's like one of the newer Disney movies where it's not hand-drawn animation. It's all, CGI or computer edited or whatever the hell the term is. And that really felt especially on top of the Peter Pan thing, that Disney is just here, let's show off our library in a franchise that has nothing to do with it. Also, what always takes me out of some of these movies that take place in the future is when they show them watching stuff that's not even from our current time, but we're talking about years before our, we're talking about 20 to 30 years before our time that we're in now. And this movie takes place, 100, 200 something years in the future? And don't get me wrong, I get there's some classic movies. If you look at Gone with the Wind came out 100 years ago. People still watch it to this day. But that kind of thing is still pretty rare. You have to really be a classic movie to have that kind of, that's a lot of longevity, guys. Gone with the Wind, we're talking about a one of a kind. How many other movies are going to stand the test of time like that? Do you think Ice Age, do you think 100 years from now people are going to be oh man, that classic Ice Age, man, I watch it once a month at least. But I'm going to stop my rant with that because that's just, again, this review is overall very, very positive. I love this show. This might be my favorite Alien thing. It could end up being my favorite Alien thing that's ever come out, right? We have to, time will tell. We're only 3 episodes in. But number one, why I love it so much, It's really focusing on the horror aspect of the franchise. Now, this is what Alien Romulus did as well, which is why I loved it so much. The Alien movies, really after Alien 1, like even starting back in Alien 2, and everything after that really got away from the horror aspect. And that's what made Alien so unique in the beginning, because without the horror aspect of that movie, it would have just been another sci-fi movie, right? It would have been another sci-fi movie about aliens, and there really wouldn't have been anything special about it. It probably wouldn't have held as a classic sci-fi movie at this point, right? And don't get me wrong, Aliens, the sequel, is awesome. I love that movie. It's very fun. They made it like an action movie, and that movie's great. But after Alien 2, we really start getting some stinkers with that franchise. And the franchise really did not recover, in my opinion, until Romulus, this movie that just came out, I think, last year. Don't get me wrong, there were some aspects of whatever they were, prequel movies, Alien Covenant and Prometheus, that were decent. They had some decent elements, but the overall movies were not good. It was just that there was like these kind of little pieces of the movies that were really good. The overall movies sucked, though. So love that the horror is such a big part of this. The monster aspect, the, tense scenes, all that kind of stuff is great. Number 2, obviously this new kind of idea about not only human consciousness being transported into a machine body, but the whole children thing. And the fact that these actors are amazing, because they sell being kids. And they're adult actors, by the way. Obviously you see the kid version of the actors first episode, but after that, when they go into the adult machine bodies, I mean, these actors are amazing. They are so believable as kids, and they're probably in like 30-year-old bodies, right? They're at least late 20s, early 30s, maybe even mid 30s, the actors that are playing them, and they do such a good job portraying like kids and like how a kid would act in this situation. 3, the writing is really good. I mean, it's kept me very interested. There are tons of characters in this that each, have their own agenda, have their own personalities, shows the conflicts between them. And one thing I've always loved about Alien versus other sci-fi movies is it really is the only franchise that predicted the hold that corporations would have over us in the future. A lot of other sci-fi movies that especially came out in the 70s, 80s, even 90s, basically showed the future and almost this like, very positive, like human beings have come together for this greater cause. It was either that or it was like kind of this dystopia, like Wasteland, right? So it was kind of one of the two. But none of them really predicted how corporations would, control society and how prevalent they would be in our lives. And, the fact that it shows like these CEOs of these 2 giant companies basically just doing whatever they want, like, telling the military essentially what to do, going to, disaster zones and like, yeah, just get out of the way. My people are coming in, right? Which is, we know this happens today, right? We know corporations get away with whatever they want. We know CEOs, billionaires. We know that they control our country, and they essentially can get away with anything. So all in all, my current favorite show, I'm loving it. I can't wait for the next episode. Maybe I'll, do this every episode, maybe every 3 episodes, we'll see, but I'm loving it. What about you guys?